Welcome back. Iran's foreign minister is in Geneva today for talks with European officials as the tension between Iran and Israel ramps up. Ahead of those talks, he addressed the UN's Human Rights Council, where he criticized talks with the U.S. that fell through.
Dear colleagues, we were attacked in the midst of an ongoing diplomatic process. We were supposed to meet with Americans on 15 June to craft a very promising agreement for peaceful resolution of the issues fabricated over our peaceful nuclear program. It was a betrayal of diplomacy, an unprecedented blow to the foundation of international law and UN system.
All right, now I want to bring in CBS News senior foreign correspondent Elizabeth Palmer with the very latest for us from Geneva. Thanks for your time today. Can you walk us through some of the other comments Iran's foreign minister made this morning at that conference?
It was interesting that he said in a betrayal of diplomacy that Israel had attacked just as the U.S. and Iran were engaged in what he described as promising negotiations. That may be a little bit of a revisionist history, but anyway, he did look very rueful when he said that, and he said, look, this is an illegal war, and anybody who supports it or justifies it will be complicit in something that breaks all kinds of international law. He left the chamber, this is one of the UN chambers where he gave that address, quite rapidly and went to a different venue where he's meeting the German, British, and French foreign ministers and a representative of the European Union. They're going to try and create a little bit of diplomatic space. They will present Iran with a proposal that could be the basis of discussion with a view to de-escalating the violence, asking Israel to refrain from bombing. And once the bombing stops, Iran says it's open to talking to the U.S. again. So if all goes well, today is the first step towards a much less violent and perhaps negotiated solution to this war.
Elizabeth, I just want to follow up on that because the United States is not part of today's meeting. So what are the chances that something concrete will actually come out of these talks?
We had a little glimpse of what Iran will be presented with from the European Union, and I can tell you two of them are that Iran will be coaxed back to zero enrichment. That's something Iran says is a non-starter. They will insist in any final agreement to have some kind of enrichment program. The Europeans are also apparently going to ask for some sort of oversight, presumably international oversight, over Iran's missile production. That surely also is a non-starter. Iran is not going to accept any kind of international controls over what it does in the way of building up weapons. So a quick answer or a breakthrough today, I would say zero chance, but maybe a reason to keep talking.
Of course, of course. Elizabeth Palmer, thank you so much for your insight and perspective. We appreciate it. Okay, let's bring in CBS News Middle East reporter Courtney Kealy, who's joining me now for much more on all of this. Courtney, thank you for your time. What steps need to be taken from a diplomatic perspective to reach peace between Israel and Iran?
Oh, it really, we are at baby steps now. What would have to happen would be a ceasefire, first of all, because the Iranians say they're not going to negotiate anything about their nuclear deal with the U.S. while under fire. So that's what they're saying, first of all. We're seeing this diplomacy that's happening in Geneva, but it also has to involve the U.S. and Trump. President Trump has definitely signified that he's interested and willing to continue nuclear talks, but again, they won't happen while Israel is continuing to fire on Iran.
And let me ask you about this, because multiple sources tell CBS News that the Trump administration and the FBI are ramping up their monitoring of possible Iran-backed sleeper cells in the U.S. So just how big of a concern is this?
Well, it's something that they're monitoring, and they have done in the past. For instance, in January 2020, when President Trump ordered the killing of the then head of the Iranian Revolutionary National Guard Corps and the Al-Quds Force. He was a very prominent figure, a very powerful figure. And when he was killed, people in the know braced for what kind of retaliation there would be, and it happened to actually be against U.S. troops in Iraq, but they also made sure to monitor whether there could be any sleeper cells in the U.S., so they're continuing to monitor like they did in 2020. They're not really commenting on it. Neither the White House nor the FBI will give any more information than that.
And we know that Iran, they have warned of retaliation if the United States is to get involved in this conflict. I suppose the big question is, what would that look like? Do we know?
Well, there are targets that they could go after that are not in the United States, that are not necessarily in Iraq, because the U.S. has over 40 or about 40,000, depending on deployments, say 40,000 troops in the region. They have an Air Force base in Qatar. They've got the Fifth Fleet in Bahrain. They've got U.S. warships that are helping Israel defensively in the Mediterranean. They reportedly have one in the Red Sea, and the Pentagon doesn't tip its hand to exactly where most troops are, but we do know they are around in the region, and they are in places like Bahrain, which is a government that oppresses its Shia minority, and that's where our troops are, our Navy troops. So that would be a likely target if Iran decides to go after the region. But then would they want to destroy this fledgling new relationship with Saudi Arabia, for instance? It's unlikely. So we haven't seen anything yet. And President Trump is saying, wait 2 weeks. So we're going to have to wait and see and take it day by day according to what the president decides.
All right, Courtney Kealy, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate your insight.